Meredith Tromble is Professor Emeritus of Interdisciplinary Studies at the San Francisco Art Institute. She's an intermedia artist who has an extensive track record of collaborating with scientists, notably the Vortex Project with the geobiologist Don Sumner, which started in 2011. And she's given, I think, 2 laser talks about this. So maybe there are videos. We can document the prehistory of the vortex. And recently she has organized 3 art exhibitions related to research and learning. Okay, that's my brief introduction. Again, if you go to lasertalks.com, you'll find an extensive bio and a link to her website. All yours.
All right. Thank you, Piero. It's really a pleasure to be back here again. I'm going to talk about the New College Circle, the lifelong impact of a creative school, which is about an interdisciplinary group of artists of which I was a part and the adventurous school where we met. It's also a reflection on the twists and turns of creative careers and the kind of education that prepares students to make the most of an uncertain future. New College of California was small. These 2 shots of the catalog show almost the entire student body. I'm not in there, but because I was working that day, but you can see it was intimate. In 1974, the year that I landed there, there were 95 students, 8 full-time faculty, 4 staff members, and a rotating handful of part-time instructors. The undergraduate school was just 2 years old, and the law school, which later became the most influential wing of the school, the thing that most people know about it, was just starting up. 25% of the student body starred in a play called ABC Antigone, which was written and directed by faculty member Martin Epstein in 1974. So on the left are costume sketches and photos from the exhibition's archival wall for ABC Antigone, which will tell you the era that we're talking about: analog photography, mimeographs. And when the school moved from the Sausalito waterfront, where it started, to an old mortuary in San Francisco's Mission District, the word was spread via photocopied posters. So still, in this micro university, I met 7 other students who profoundly influenced my life and worked closely with 3 instructors, over a period of years. I took lots of classes with other instructors. And these 3 particularly special professors set my mind on fire while also giving me really useful skills. And I think that is a pretty good ratio, because many people tell me that they don't remember even one special faculty member from their undergraduate education. So the exhibition opens with a self-portrait by one of those teachers, Dennis Subia, who was the art department at New College. And there are 7 other artists and musicians represented, left to right: designer Carola Anderson, filmmaker Henry Rosenthal, yours truly, Elaine McKean, composer David Doty, photographer Jan Watton, and artist Michael Lynch. Dale Souls, who's memorialized in the exhibition, passed away in 2014. Some of us came to New College straight out of high school, and some of us had tried other forms of higher education. Half of us had families sending us the $2,000 per year tuition, and half of us were on our own. We worked together in various configurations in and after New College, dispersing to a great variety of creative practices and careers in around the mid-1990s. but we all found at New College a creative way to look at life that kept us going creatively through the years to come, which is not a small thing. At the time, statistics said that of students graduating with a degree in art, only 5% were still making art 10 years later. Each of us in the New College circle found a path over, under, or around the barriers that stop young artists from becoming mature artists. So I wanted to do this exhibition now because college often seems to be talked about as just an expensive route to a job. And I wanted to present our work in context with the unique school that prepared us to thrive creatively for 50 years, and we hope more. The school catalog promised a, quote, meaningful and interesting study plan for each student and identified 4 conceptual areas: interdisciplinary concepts, imaginative concepts, disciplines, and values. But this was really just kind of a nod to the custom of departments. Nod given, the school got on with presenting interesting classes and helping us pursue our own questions in a lot of different ways through tutorials, practicums, internships, you name it, people did it. All in the interest of pursuing our own questions, but through feedback, pushing us not to stop with easy answers. So taken seriously, this was a really demanding curriculum. Psychological physiologist George Block's energy class was an interdisciplinary revelation with implications for me that I am still working out, as in the video, Eating Light, a dance and drawing artist video about photosynthesis that anchors the installation all at once in the exhibition, which we'll see later. Block was a scientist, but he gave me the intellectual tools to explore biological and physical energies as an artist. And I taught my own version of the energy class often during my decades as a professor at the San Francisco Art Institute. For Henry Rosenthal, it was philosopher Robert Rawls' class, Only Connect, that reverberates decades later in an era that firmly divided culture into high and low. You know, in the 1970s, critics were still arguing about whether color photography was an art form. This class, Only Connect, let Rosenthal transgress status categories and tweak hierarchies of value, looking all around for things of interest. And this fascination animated his later career in experimental media and his pop culture collections, which he has melded into a life portrait installation for the exhibition. Rosenthal, seen here in the front on the left, David Doty to Rosenthal's left, and Dale Souls, who's their middle back, formed a class with the composer John Dinwiddie, which then led to their founding with Carola Anderson, who's the foremost female figure there. The experimental ensemble Other Music, which was active for a decade, 1975 to 1986, and played all over the Bay Area at many music festivals and venues. They composed, built their own instruments, recorded a segment for KQED, and 2 albums that are represented in the exhibition. David Doty went on to be... He continued composing, and he became a leading authority on an alternative tuning system called Just Intonation. And we were thrilled to debut his new album, The First 50 Years, at the exhibition. I'm not going to try to play any of it for you right now because I know music and Zoom don't always get along, but you can find some of his work on Spotify and other places online. Rosenthal became a drummer in a proto-punk band, Crime, and began his career as a producer, executive producer, or actor in scores of experimental media productions with the 1975 Viacom show that he started while still at New College, Files, Things That Are Kept and Why. And that's his mentor, New College faculty Robert Rawle, there on the monitor discussing his files in one of the first episodes, playing in Rosenthal's installation for the exhibition. Several of the New College Circle are listed in the credits for Files as well. And Files was played with the Conceptual Minute, which brought on conceptual artists like Tom Marioni and Howard Fried to do a minute of something. Michael Lynch also had a career in film of a different sort. After graduation, he pursued his own way of integrating craft and concept, developing a position as artist engineer. He met Bay Area figurative luminaries William Theophilus Brown and Paul Warner in the course of an early day job moving furniture, and we co-founded a figure drawing group with Brown and Warner around the same time. He placed an ad in Art Week offering his services as a technical consultant to artists. So many artists have technical questions that need solving, but not very many have the money to pay a consultant. And so eventually Lynch found the perfect site for his constellation of interests, working in film special effects for Industrial Light and Magic and its descendant studios. His film credits range from Star Wars to Boots Riley's I'm a Virgo from just the last couple of years. And he's now focused on his studio work, which usually involves an adventure, such as hanging a pendulum from a railroad bridge on the left, or casting animal tracks, as in these beautiful works. This one is from Alaska, and this one is from Zimbabwe. And you can see that the drawing along the border at the bottom gives the location of the water hole and some they're informationally presented, but it's not necessarily the kind of mix that you would find in a solely educational project along the bottom about the animals. So don't worry if the slide is black, because I just want to talk to you myself for just a second to say that all of the bodies of the work in the exhibition are the culmination of similarly zigzag career paths. My point being that Lynch trained at age 18 to work in what then constituted special effects for film, he might have spent years painting sets before being laid off in the 1990s as digital tools transformed the industry. It was the mindset of an artist and the aptitude for, quote, learning how to learn, nurtured by New College, that supported him as he navigated the turbulence generated by the late century explosion of computation and the internet, which completely transformed the special effects industry. And similar conclusions could be drawn from the careers of Doty, who's developed an expertise in electronics through experimental music, which found him work in the computer industry, which then allowed him to retire early to focus on his composing. Or my own zigzag path through day jobs in art journalism that required confronting computers early on. So each of us found our question-driven education invaluable in negotiating the digital turn. But I think the deepest imprint of New College may be in the self-defined notions of success that the school encouraged. I have a memory of sociologist poet Louis Patler passionately discussing the derivation of the word amateur from the Latin word for lover, and making the case for doing something for the love of it rather than because of professionalism, which he saw as submitting to other people's ideas about success. He had a lot of opportunities to inoculate us against the smothering disdain that calls activities that don't make money hobbies. And you can immediately see the relevance of this attitude to poets whose opportunities for professional success are few. But I think it was also important to the spectrum of creative practices represented in this exhibition. Before agreeing to participate, both Carola Anderson and Elaine McKean told me firmly that they did not consider themselves artists. They are both dedicated to creative practices that buck the limitations that define capital A artists in the mid-1970s. A central participant in Other Music, in the years following that group's dissolution, Anderson devoted herself to design, saying, "The things I make are useful." And the exhibition presents photographs of more than 300 costume designs she executed for professional and educational performances. The ones here are from a production of Oscar Wilde's The Canterville Ghost, which she set in the swinging 60s. Were Anderson to launch her career now, she would encounter an art world with a lot more porous notions of the relationship between art and design. I think the extreme height of the walls that separated art from design in the 1970s is hard to see now. It was a wall that was erected by the elevation of certain heroic, genius, white, cisgender male artists over other artists. I see Anderson's refusal of the role of artist to focus on service or usefulness as a rejection of the genius hero role, not a refusal of creative practice, as the work abundantly demonstrates. McKean's creative stance also escapes the limitations of the mid-20th century notion of artist. She and Lynch continued working with playwright Martin Epstein, faculty member, after graduation, creating costumes, playbills, puppets, and other props for the Magic Theater's production of his plays. And then in later years, she tapped her New College studies to introduce a visual arts program meeting the state curriculum at her daughter's public school, growing it into after-school and homeschool programs and directing this program until her retirement. But although she was teaching art, she didn't consider herself an artist. She simply met her own creative needs by shaping the landscape behind her home and researching both sides of her daughter's family tree. That genealogy now spans centuries and includes more than 12,000 names. In the 21st century art world, both of these activities could be framed publicly as art. And for this exhibition, McKean gave visual form to her creative practice with a photograph of the hillside space displayed with willow branches and a basket overflowing with names from the genealogy. Yet her practice remains private and her intended audience is intimate. And I think this is an important dimension to consider given the theme of the exhibition. A creative education offers a range of payoffs. Creative meaning-making is public and private, and they both matter. The exhibition also contains a memorial to Soules, who became the New College librarian as he continued working with experimental music, poetry, and philosophy. And the archival section is full of photos by Jan Watton, who, while not a student at New College, was an important member of the circle through her friendship with Elaine McKean, which started in their middle school years. Watton's photos are the only record of many New College events and a key part of the archival materials in the show. The New College Circle is the third of my 3 2024 exhibitions related to knowing, research, and/or education. For this, the most personal of these exhibitions, I made the installation all at once, composing drawings, video, and other elements from my work spanning the years 1986 to 2024. 1995 was a significant break in my work, stemming from a significant break in my body, a medical event that laid me out for a year. It wasn't physically possible to continue working on the large installations that I had been doing, and as I recovered, I felt my way back into art by drawing roses that my landlady, Mary O'Leary, cut from the garden, drawings I could work on in bed. They have never been shown before. I've kept them around as a conduit to the knowledge that art can survive utter exhaustion and fear for my life. In my daily life now, the joy of being alive is accompanied by a constant undertow, constant news of cruelty and suffering. And thus, a drawing based on news photographs stretches under the images. And the face of a woman gives a side eye to the whole as a woman emerges from a bombed out building, people struggle through a flood, a hawk screams, a rose receives light from the sun, makes beautiful flowers. All of this, the woman contemplates this simultaneity of terrible vulnerability and truly amazing grace from our place in the universe. That drawing at the bottom had to be cut to fit as we were installing. And as I started the cut, I could hear Dennis Subia's voice in my head guiding me. Focus on what you're doing. Make sure the blade is upright. Once you start, keep going. Don't stop. New College prepared me well for life. So this talk is a truncated version of the exhibition essay, which goes into more detail about school, the varied configurations, all the different projects that we worked on together, the mutual aid and assistance that made us an informal group. So if you're in striking distance, please come see the show at the Greyloft Gallery in Oakland. If you are interested in reading the full essay, just get in touch and I'll send it. This is my contact information, and I just really want to thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Meredith.